about some real practical stuff and some boring stuff too about getting licensed and all that good stuff. So, because we're rapidly heading there, we really are. I'm excited about that. All right, so you guys will have some big decisions to make actually when you graduate from here, and do not be overwhelmed by them, because massage is a really unusual field where you don't necessarily have to decide to be in business for yourself solely or work for somebody else solely. Many massage therapists do both. So, like, don't get me wrong, there are massage therapists that do what Mr. and Mrs. Carodi have done, where they actually start their own storefront. But I met there are other massage therapists that are like, I'm going to do a mobile massage business and go to people's houses, and that is a complete business of their own. And it's truly their business. They're the sole proprietor of that. And I'm going to work 2 days a week at this resort or this chiropractic office. And they will often do that for lots of reasons. Like they like the higher returns from their private clients, but they like the steady business from the chiropractic or the resort office, things like that. And then what they'll often do is when one business does better, they'll start to pull hours away from the other business, just depending on whatever happened. And I've done both, and I can tell you, and I'm not trying to be diplomatic, I liked both. I loved when it was just me, and I was doing my own business. I loved getting all the profits from that. I in some ways made more money, in some ways made more money. And that part was neat, and I liked the freedom to set my own schedule and all that stuff. And I thought I'll never want to work for somebody. But when I worked for somebody who paid well and had benefits, all of a sudden I was like, oh, and I really liked that, because I would go there and you work and you leave. So I don't mean to keep referring to Mr. and Mrs. Carodi, but I guarantee that they still get phone calls at night about their business. And the nice thing about working for somebody else is you really can leave. They handle the complaints, they handle the laundry, they handle the paperwork, all that kind of stuff. And doing both, I was able to appreciate both. And I've mixed both too, where I've done a little bit of both. And I've also worked in like chiropractic offices and spas and where else? Oh my gosh, so many places actually, therapy centers, all sorts of stuff. And they're all wonderful for different reasons. So I encourage you all to not get too stuck on any one idea, and to remember that your first year for sure you're going to be experimenting. And the experiment might go, it won't go bad, but it might go terribly well where you're like, I just love this place, I'm staying here for the next 25 years. But a lot of times you'll be like, yeah, that was okay, but I want this different situation, or I want these different hours, I want to try this different style of massage, I want to do more therapeutic work, or I want to do more relaxation work, or whatever. And so it's wonderful because people expect massage therapists to move around. So in my business and in most businesses, people get worried when they see you've only been a couple of years at a place. They wonder why you're jumping around. But with massage therapists, as long as you've been there a year, they're usually pretty cool about hiring you. So when we look at resumes, when I used to look at resumes for massage therapists, the thing I didn't like seeing was 3 months here, 3 months there, 3 months there, because I'm like, how can this person not stay at a place for a year? But after about a year, it was pretty normal. It's very normal to see massage therapists work a couple of years in a place and then move on. Yes, Miss Lovitz.
Did you find when you're working at like spas or franchises are respectful that you might only want to work 2 days a week, or do some of them have like minimums? No, we want you here 4 days or this many hours.
Yeah, they do have minimums, but I found that there's some ways you can manipulate them. So, and even if they tell you that, you can give them this sales pitch, but I don't know if this will help you. I found that it wasn't so much, they do some have minimums. Some have minimums, by the way, for benefits too, and that you can't get around that. You've got to put into the 30, 32 hours to get your benefits, if that's a deal there. But what I found was I could go tell a place, I'll just work 2 days a week for you if those 2 days a week were Saturday and Sunday. Because they want people for weekends badly, you know, and I used to have people come to me all the time and say, I'll work any hours you want Monday through Friday. And I thought, so will my whole staff. My whole staff will do that. I need people for Saturday and Sundays. That's what my whole staff doesn't want to do. Miss Trotter, what do you think about that?
I was just gonna say, I know with Massage Envy, At least the location that I'm working at now, just because we don't have a lot of therapists, like a lot of them are we're able to like change around their schedule and be like it's like more flexible because the managers just want them to be happy, so we don't lose anymore. So
Yeah.
I think that also plays a big factor. Like, yeah, they might lose out like on some of the benefits that like you have to meet an hour requirement, but like I know at least at my location they don't have like a set hour requirement unless you're wanting like the health insurance or whatever else they offer. So.
I'm really glad you spoke up, Ms. Trotter. Ms. Trotter pointed out something that I had forgotten about completely, which is the environment that you guys will be graduating in. And it is an employee's market right now. Employers are desperate. And like what Ms. Trotter just said, they're terrified to lose people. And that means they are willing to be a whole lot more flexible. So Ms. Lobitz, if I had to guess, and I am guessing about an entire industry, but I would suspect if you made the right sales pitch, you could tell somebody like, I've only got Mondays and Tuesdays available, but you can have them anytime. I'm super reliable. I'll be there. And when business picks up, maybe I can do more. If you tell them that kind of thing, I think where in the past they would have been like, forget it. I think that Ms. Trotter's right. They really need people these days. I will also make a pitch, by the way. The one thing about weekends, though, is many massage therapists, including myself, say that I used to make as much on Saturday and Sunday as I did Monday through Friday. Like, those 2 days were worth, I'd rather work those 2 days and take the next 5 off, really. Yeah. Miss Mejia.
I was wondering what you thought, like, is it better to get health insurance from an employer or purchase it yourself?
It is better to get it from an employer if you can, because they have a group policy, so they're paying less for it, and they usually will pay for part of your insurance. And you being married, and any of you out there married or in a domestic partnership or whatever, if the thing that you might end up actually doing that will give you a lot of flexibility, you don't have to do it this way, but let's say your husband has a full-time position, he gets benefits. Usually it's easier to piggyback on his benefits, and then you're just kind of a freelancer and you don't have to worry about that.
Just kind of leech off like I do for my parents.
Well, but it's not leeching when it's your husband.
Well,
I mean,
they gotta pay for that.
but my girlfriend and I do the same thing. We're getting ready to get married, and we both have very good insurance, and we have discussions like, whose insurance policy are we going to go under? Because it doesn't matter; it's all our money. But the question is, who's got the better policy at the better price? And I just have a feeling your husband might end up, not because he's your husband, but just because massage doesn't always have the greatest health insurance. It depends on where you work, and Ms. Trotter's nodding her head. And by the way, some places do, but not all of them. And so if your husband has great health insurance, it's usually not that much more expensive to drop a spouse onto an existing policy. Like, I would guess, and I'm probably right, it is cheaper for you and your husband to be on your husband's policy, or you and your husband to be on your policy, than for you each to be on your own policies. Because usually as you add people onto a policy, it's actually not double, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just food for thought. But yes, if an employer offers you insurance and your husband doesn't, take the insurance. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's good. Okay. I was just pausing to make sure. Oh, Mr. Blygen, please.
Hey,
Hey.
so do you know if any of the chains offer FSA and HSA cards?
Oh, health savings accounts?
Yeah.
Miss Trotter, does your store, do you know if your store does health savings accounts? I don't know, sir, by the way.
I don't think so. I know we just changed health insurance type stuff, but I didn't really look into it all that much because I have health insurance already and it's a lot better. So that part I don't know.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be too surprised if they had HSA accounts, sir, because high deductible insurance policies are when they start carrying those, and I would suspect that if a chain is trying to keep their insurance claims costs down, they would have high deductible accounts with HSA cards. For all of you out there, by the way, all insurance policies have a deductible. So if I stab myself in the temple right now with this pen, which I will not do because I'm having a great birthday, but if I do, and I go to the hospital, like, my insurance company won't pay the first $500 of that bill. Like, that's up to me. But once I hit the $500, they pay everything after that. Well, sometimes you can get a cheaper policy when you have a higher deductible. But then the question is, how are you going to pay that deductible? And they open up what's called a health savings account for you. Sometimes they put a little money in there for you, but you can put money in there pre-tax to help pay those high deductibles. But anyway, sir, I guess my answer to your question is I don't know what the other chains are doing.
That's fine, but the reason I asked is because I'm not sure if many people are aware, but if you go to Elements using that, you can use your HSA or FSA card at Elements to get massages.
Oh, snap. I didn't realize that. That's very cool.
Yeah, because I just used mine. Remember the other day I was on lecture and I was at the optometrist.
Uh-huh.
Optometrist? Yeah, that one.
Okay.
And I wish I would have known that at that time because I maxed it out from Wells Fargo because I was like, well, I don't want to leave the money on there. So I went and got my contacts. But if I would have known I had $130 on there, I would have went to Elements and just got a massage.
Yeah.
You know, and they're accepting that now.
Yeah. And by the way, and Mr. Blige, maybe you can explain this better, but the reason he wanted to use up the money on his HSA account is you get penalized or you lose it if you don't use it by the end of the year. And it's your money. It's money you put in there quite often. So,
yeah, you use it or lose it. So basically, I had it set to where they would take, I think it was $5 every paycheck out, just so it would be unnoticeable.
Yeah.
So if something came up where I needed to go to the dentist and they said, oh, you need a filling and the insurance covers X amount of money, but you have to pay out of pocket, you can just pull out that card because it's already money that's taken out and it's like a savings account. You just put it to the side, but you don't realize that it's there. So if you don't use it by the end of the year or by the time you leave the company, you basically lose that money.
yeah.
And you can use it at CVS or whatever just to go buy peroxide or, you know, it's like a lot. Even on Amazon, you can buy stuff using that same card too. So, yeah, just in case somebody has like that insurance and an FSA or HSA, just let everybody know that they can use that as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't even realize you were going that direction with it, but it's a really good point. It's also a really good point. Does that mean that private massage therapists could accept that if they had a way to do it?
I believe that you have to
Apply or something?
no, you have to be certified to accept it.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of the same way like accepting insurance, and also when you do run that card, they'll turn around and ask for a receipt. So it does most likely need to be a qualified, certified place because they just emailed me for my receipt from my contact lens exam. So, you know, they do ask for proof, and you would need to be able to probably provide like a license number or something like that if it's for service.
Got it. Yeah, good point. That might be something worth, and I don't know anything about this, but that might be worth looking into because you'd be able to, because a lot of people, especially people with a lot of money, have really large HSA accounts. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a way to maybe grab some customers if they don't want to spend their own money. They have money in the savings account. So if we were able to accept those somehow, then that would be great.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. Thank you. In fact, I'm going to make a note because I actually kind of want to look into that. That to me could be a business idea. Yeah. Thank you. Cool. Very cool. Okie dokie. Any other questions? Oh, Ms. Trotter, do you have your hand up? I'm sorry, ma'am. Please.
I was just gonna say, I know Massage Envy accepts those cards too. And I believe Hand and Stone does it as well because they're all like a chain, so they're bigger massage companies. But I know from pitching wise, Elements has like the best membership because you can have like multiple people and only pay for one membership instead of like Massage Envy where you're spending a whole bunch of money. So, but yeah.
That's a very good point. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Okay. Cool. Interesting. So many things I didn't think about. Okay. Let me move along here. Let's talk about reasons for business failure. So, incompetence is what your book says. I think that's a test question, so I underlined it. It's kind of true, but I don't like the way they put it. My experience for massage therapists is their business failure is usually based on lack of hard work. And it's not me preaching like Tapscott, they're just lazy. But a lot of people just don't realize, like, if you have your own business, it's all on you. And it's very weird. Like when I go to Gateway, somebody's doing my paycheck, somebody's got my uniform, there's a maintenance person doing the building, there's people cleaning the building, they give me students, like there's all these things that happen, and when it's your own business, it all falls on you. And so some of the biggest mistakes we see is just people are just not prepared for the fact that running their own business is not a job. You own the business. And so you have to put a lot of extra time in it. They mentioned emotional pricing, and it's something I want to mention to you guys here too, which is a lot of people kind of set their prices for emotional reasons, what they feel something is worth or whatever, and it really doesn't matter too much. It just matters what you can sell your massage for. So a lot of people, when they do their business plan, not just for massage, they kind of go, I'm going to sell these pens. These pens cost me 5 cents. I'll sell them for 10 cents. Well, that's not actually a good business approach. A good business approach is these pens cost me 5 cents. I will go do market research to figure out what people will buy pens for. If they buy them for 6 cents, that's what you can't really sell them for much more than that. If they'll buy them for $6, that's what you sell them at. Even if it's 1,000 times more than you paid. You set your prices based on what the market will bear for what you're doing. So if you guys are in Scottsdale and you feel like you've got a lot of clients, don't be afraid to raise your prices. Truly. Don't worry about how it feels to you. I remember when I first started charging $100 an hour for massage, and this was way back when, and I was like, but the market would bear it. People would pay it. And I had enough clients that I was busy enough, and it made sense. So just don't think about it in terms of just what your time costs. Think about, like, what will the market bear? If you can get $200 an hour for your massage, do it. Truly. Oh, here, not expending enough effort. There was my laziness thing. You all have to have a massage license to do massage in the state of Arizona to collect money on it. You may need a business license too. Business licenses only cost $100. You probably don't need a business license if you are traveling in your car to go to people's houses and giving them massage. But if you have an actual business location that's not your house, you probably should get a business license, and they're like $100 to apply for one. And that ends up being your tax ID. If you don't have a business license, your tax ID is your social security number, and that's it. You all also might want to get malpractice insurance, or liability insurance. This is different than health insurance, and it's very cheap for massage therapists. The best way to get it, I think, is to go to one of the national massage organizations. There's like 3 of them. Usually they offer that if you sign up for their insurance for like $100 a year, they'll cover you with a $10 million policy, because massage therapists don't get sued for malpractice very often, thank goodness. And they'll give you a free subscription to their monthly magazine, and they'll usually give you free online continuing education too. Like, they throw a lot of stuff in there because they want you to be a member. And so that is a really good way to go. Some places, like I suspect, Ms. Trotter, I'm going to reach out to you again here, but I think Massage Envy probably requires that you come in with insurance.
Not anymore.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, when I worked so that's interesting. So they used to require it, right? And when I worked for a lot of the chains would require it, but when I would work for the big resorts and stuff like that, they were like, we don't care because they're not going to sue you. They're going to sue us. And maybe that's what Massage Envy finally realized. And so that's up to you guys. One thing I would say is, if you're flat broke, I wouldn't worry as much about your liability insurance. If you're worth something, worry about it. Because if if you're massaging on your own and somebody does sue you, it's your money they're coming after. So just something to think about. And it's super cheap. That said, I've never had insurance in my life for massage. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't. I just meant, and I've never been sued, never run into a problem, anything. But liability insurance also protects you against stuff that doesn't happen on the table. If you're doing massage in your house and they trip while coming out of your house, that can be covered by liability insurance. It can also be covered by your homeowner's insurance, but it depends. Yes, Mr. Blygen.
Does that include other things that you can be sued for, like sexual harassment and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think that falls under malpractice. So are you planning on sexually harassing some people and you want to make sure you're covered?
Are you asking me or telling me?
I'm teasing. Yeah, yes, I believe it. I mean, make sure it'll actually tell you in the insurance policy what it covers. I would make sure. But my belief is, yes, it covers you for that kind of stuff too. And you're absolutely right. That to me is a bigger problem. And you might not sexually harass anybody whatsoever, right? But they accuse you of it. And that's when I would want the insurance. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
In this lecture, are we going to go over stuff that that goes on with the board of massage therapy as well, as far as licensure?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Like, you mean like how to get licensed, what they look for, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
And problems you might have with, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Continue.
Thank you. All right, so liability insurance, if you get it through, and actually it would be great if you had it for your externship, but apparently it's not as big a deal these days. Anyway, I think, by the way, also, if you guys look now, you can get it free as a student. Because they so badly want to get you, once you become a massage therapist, a licensed one, that they'll give it to you free right now to sign up. And then you're not even obligated to get it later, but they're going to hit you up when you graduate and say, hey, now you should buy a policy. Anyway, that's that. Disability insurance. This is fantastic if you can get it, but it's hard to get. It's hard for massage therapists to get, and I once tried to get it. Disability insurance is insurance that protects me and helps pay my wages if I become temporarily or permanently disabled. And I tried to get it once as a massage therapist because I was the sole provider for my house, and my kids were little, and my wife at the time, I was the person providing the income. And we both thought, like, whatever happens if I get injured, like, there's no money coming in. So I looked for for disability insurance, and it was tricky. And I talked to an insurance underwriter, and I said, why is it so hard for me to get this? He goes, it's because you're a massage therapist. And I said, we get injured a lot? He goes, no, you don't. He said, but the problem is we're worried about when you make a claim. He goes, if you hurt your pinky, you can claim you can't work. And he goes, of course you can, but you can make the claim. You hurt your wrist, you can claim you can't work. You hurt your ankle, you can claim you can't work. You hurt your back, you can claim you can't work. He goes, and we get worried about how easy it is to make a claim for disability insurance, so it tends to be trickier. That is something, by the way, that you can get through many companies. And so if your massage company offers disability insurance, especially short and medium term, which means you're only going to use it for 3 months or a year, I would recommend it. I even carry that here. I even carry that here through Gateway, through my work here. And I'm not a big insurance guy, but if anything were to happen and I'm out of work for 6 months, they still pay half my salary while I'm getting better. So it's just not a bad idea, especially if it's $12 a month or whatever it is. Sometimes it's quite cheap sometimes. Permanent disability, by the way, for all of you would be covered by Social Security. So I don't think permanent disability is as important to get. Short-term disability is, I think, very important to get. Employment opportunities, clinics, hospitals, cruise lines. By the way, I have never worked a cruise line. It's one of the things I haven't ever done. I know many people that have, and all of them have told me they loved it and they'd never do it again. And I think they meant both. I just think they were like, it was kind of like a roller coaster ride. Like, it was really fun, but I worked really hard and I'm really glad I did it, and I wouldn't do it again though. And they do it for a year or two and that's it. They work you really hard on a cruise ship. When you're not massaging, they want you out selling massage and promoting the massage and filling the massage, right? It's a very high level of, if anybody's been on a cruise here, you see the way the staff works. They work hard on cruise ships. So Anyway, again, everybody who's done it has told me they really liked it, but they also didn't do it permanently. They said it was great. They got to see the world. They did it for a couple of years and they were done. Spas are an obvious one, and you guys are in the spa mecca of the United States. There are more spas in Arizona than there are any other state in the United States. There are loads of them out here. If you can get on with a spa, that's fantastic. In the past, they wanted you to work for a year before you even apply at a big name spa, but nowadays they're starting to get kind of scared and they need therapists again. So you guys are in some of the best poised positions to get on with a spa that in the past you would have had to work for a year and prove some type of history to even apply. But from our last graduating class, I had 2 students that applied to the Wigwam Resort here. And so we're just waiting to hear if they got the job. And the Wigwam is happy to see them with no experience, which is really shocking. Now they quizzed them, by the way, on their anatomy, just so you guys are warned. I don't mean they gave them a test, but the lead therapist had them massage them and asked them questions about anatomy and all that kind of stuff. But they were very impressed with them, and we'll see what happens. So it is an option. I would say anything's an option right now, and I would not have said that in the past. 1 year ago, I was telling the class, don't even try to apply for a spa. Just don't do it, because they won't let you apply. Now I would say, if you like it, apply for it. Gyms. Gyms can actually be really cool. I had a student 5 years ago, 6 years ago probably, who, I've had a couple students get these kind of sweet deals, and I want to tell you guys about them because they're out there and some people don't realize they're sweet deals at first. So I had a student and somebody said, well, we have a gym and we have one room that we'd like to offer massage for our gym clientele, and you would charge them and you get to keep all the money, and we're not charging you rent or anything. That's it. They just wanted to be able to say they offered massage. And this student went there and they were like, I'm thinking about quitting. I sat around like all week and I did like 2 massages. And I was like, do not quit that job. Because they are the sole massage therapist at a gym where there's no other competition whatsoever. And I said, bring a book with you, whatever, stick it out, and you're getting 100% of the profit of your massage. And they did, and it ended up being a very good job, but they had to stick it out, right? You would love to be a big fish in a small pond. I mean, that's really great. I had another student from my very first class here at Gateway. Her apartment complex said, we brand ourselves as a luxury apartment complex. We want to say we have massages available on site. We have kind of like an apartment that we're not renting, that you could make your massage place. You get to keep all the money again. And we just want to be able to say we offer it. We need somebody highly reliable that'll be there every day. And she would walk downstairs to her work. And that too took off big time for her. It started slow, but eventually, and she's the only person there, and she got to keep the entire amount of her money, and she kept that job until she left the state. She finally left the state to go somewhere else. But those type of deals are very sweet. So sometimes it's neat to be in a really big place like the Princess, but there's real advantages to a small mom and pop shop that's like, oh, we just want to offer massage. It's really quite lucrative. There are a lot of salons here in town that want to have massage, and they've got one room. And if you become that massage therapist and you're willing to build up that clientele there, it's a good deal. And you neat thing about salons and gyms and apartments and all this stuff is there's clientele right there in front of you, right? You get out your chair and you do some chair massage, and before you know it, you've got clients. And they tell your friends. And those places, if they're letting you keep 100% of the profits, oh my gosh, that's a sweet deal. And they're out there. They're really out there. That's not pie in the sky. There's quite a few of my students who've gotten those type of deals. Of course, there's massage franchises, Elements, Massage Envy, Hand and Stone are the 3 largest employers of massage therapists in the United States. Today, Massage Envy therapists will do 50,000 massages in the United States today. 50,000, over 50,000. People always ask me which one of these franchises is the best, and honestly, it depends on where you work. So there are wonderful Massage Envy locations. There are horrible Massage Envy locations. There are wonderful Hand and Stone locations. There are horrible it's just the way it is. Same with resorts too. And a lot of times it doesn't even matter about that. It matters if you like the schedule you've got and it's close to your house. Yes, Mr. Vlajan, please.
Can you expound on that a little bit and maybe give us some things that maybe we can, I mean, not necessarily to poison our experience, but kind of give us something to look at or to look for to see if we are actually at a bad place or not. Because most of us have not been working in that type of atmosphere or work environment before. So what would categorize like one of the franchises as a bad franchise? Like, is it like the way that they treat you, like, or
Yeah. So
just a little bit information?
yeah. And again, Ms. Trotter, maybe you need to speak up here too. But pay is one thing. Like some even within the same franchise, essentially, pay can be different depending on location. And so maybe the pay isn't good. Your immediate manager has a lot to do with your day to day, right? So, like, you guys don't know Gateway. You know Mr. Ibarra and me and Matt at the front desk. You think that's Gateway, right? But you really know your immediate manager, so to speak. And if you like your immediate manager, that makes a big difference. Hours. And by the way, the other staff sometimes. There are some toxic staffs out there. Let's see, Mr. Trotter. I've worked at places where I'm like, I'm really trying to turn these people around, but man, where they're toxic. And they're the problem, too. You hear them complaining, but you're like, yeah, maybe the manager's a jerk, but you guys are jerks, too. So toxic kind of work environments like that. Whereas other places you go into, there's a real team atmosphere. The pay is good. The manager is fair. You know, they're like, yeah, we need you to work on a Saturday, but they're fair and they're nice and the pay is good and that kind of stuff. So that's what I meant. I feel like some environments are a little bit toxic because, and one other thing, supplies. Some places stay well-staffed, well-stocked. All the tables work, all the lotions are there, the laundry's always clean, and the building's always clean. It's very annoying, actually, to work in a place where you're running around trying to find clean sheets, oil, lotion, the table's not quite working right, the place looks dirty. That's a problem, too. That's poorly managed. Yeah. And I don't know how to tell if you're really in a good place or a bad place until you've worked there for a day or so. Like, it's hard. Sometimes you can tell when you walk in. If you walk in the place and the front desk doesn't greet you when you walk in, and there are places like that, you're already kind of getting a feel for their customer service. It's a good red flag right there. But sometimes it's just hard to tell, you know? It really is. I've also, God, I wish I could advise you on this, but I've also gone into places and worked for them where it was a really bad place, but I did really well because everybody there had a crappy attitude and sucked. And so like in 2 weeks, I was like the top dog because I showed up on time and I was eager to please and I did great massage. And then those people just kind of go away. They just drop off like flies. And I just stole their clients right and left. And by steal, I meant I just sat there and smiled and did my job. But their clients just come to you. And again, that's kind of like being a big fish in a dirty pond. But that's really true too. So I don't know. You can almost make it work anywhere if the manager is nice to you, keeps you well supplied, and pays you. Yeah. But anyway, keep your mind. What I want to stop you guys from doing is I hear a lot on the streets of like, oh, I'll never work for Elements, or I'll never work. And I'm like, you worked at one place. And I actually have friends that have worked for 7 years at Massage Envy locations, 8 years at Elements, that kind of stuff. And you're like, they like it. Yeah. So you have to check it out. I also, by the way, and I would have never said this a year ago either, you guys should negotiate a little bit on your pay. See if you can push them up a buck or two. Because nowadays, they're desperate. I've never seen hiring bonuses before, and I'm seeing them now. I've never seen them negotiate wages, and now they are. Yes, Ms. Trotter.
I did want to say something about that because my manager, she did tell me that if anybody is interested in coming to my location, she'll give you $500 for coming and working there once we have our license. So, yeah, yeah.
And she said she'd give the person who came?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep, for just like being an employee, like she's able to get them $500 because we need therapists that bad at that location.
Yeah, and that never happened before, ever. I mean, I've got a name for myself in the industry. I have walked into places before and they've said, oh, you're Mike Tapscott, we've heard about you. You don't have to do a practical. That's almost unheard of, but nobody's ever offered me a hiring bonus, ever. Yeah. And now, yes, I saw $500 you just heard from Ms. Trotter. I saw one for $1,000. They don't give it to you all at once, but it was still $1,000. They're big. Yeah. And they used to kind of be like, we pay whatever it is, $17, that's it. Now they're saying stuff like, we normally pay $17, but we'll pay $21 if we can get somebody in right now. They're really being much more flexible.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Like, as we graduate and we get our license, like, what should be our minimum that we're looking at this point?
I think you should all be paid $20 an hour or more. Yeah. I think even though the chains pay a little bit less than that sometimes, I think you guys could all get $20 an hour at any place. Do you think, Ms. Trotter, do you know what I'm sure they can get $20 an hour at Massage Envy. I know that's a pretty bold statement, but.
I don't know about that, but I know we normally start off at 16, but it really just depends on how necessary they need you at that location, so it may vary. I don't know.
I'll tell you guys what, I'm kind of unionizing you. I've never done this before, but if you guys all stick to the $20 an hour thing, they'll pay it. Like when they start because when you guys graduate, you're going to get reached out by all these companies like Massage Envy and Elements and Hand and Stone. And if all of you are like, oh gosh, I really appreciate that. Yep, I live right down the street. I am very interested. Can't take less than $20 an hour though. I think you'll find they say yes. I really do. And the cool thing is because they're so desperate for therapists, they're not going to get mad at you. Worst case scenario, they're going to go, Mr. Blygen, I understand that, but you are fresh out of school and we can offer you these benefits, but it's going to be $19 an hour. You know, but they're not going to turn you away. I really, in my heart of hearts, think you could all get $20 an hour or higher. Anywhere. And then tips on top of that, right? And most therapists say that they make another $20 an hour if they're good on tips. So the tips usually double your wages. Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Blygen, don't take less than 20. The more I think about it, just don't do it. Yeah. And by the way, I mean, my two students who applied at the Wigwam pays $43 an hour. So now that's the Wigwam, and it's hard to get in there, and they're not, that kind of stuff. But the point is, it's out there. So, and by the way, sometimes resorts, they pay really well, but they're very seasonal, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, yeah, I wouldn't accept less than. You guys put in too much time. Massage is too hard. $20 an hour is completely reasonable. Anyway, if you don't budge, they're going to bend with you. Especially when you're sitting right in front of them and they like you. Right? It's kind of like dating. We all put on our best face, right? And then after you fall in love with us, then we let the crazy come out. So and I don't mean the crazy is going to come out later, but after they've met you and they've gotten a practical from you, they want you. And that's when you're like, oh my God, I'd love to take this job. I've had so many offers, but this one is really good. But I mean, I think you can understand why I have to ask for 20. And they're going to know other people have offered you 20. They're going to know it. Yeah, push them. Push them. I'll do it for you. Mr. Ibarra does it for you. Mr. Ibarra, I really like this about him. He's been telling employers for years now, like if you want more therapists, you need to pay more. Yeah. Yeah. More than 20. Go for it. Hotels, resorts, shopping malls. You know what's not on this list too is the airport. The airport has the international terminal here. Is it the international terminal? Anyway, I think it's the international. Anyway, the terminal here has massage right there. And I know somebody, I don't know them personally, but they're like my friend's daughter, but she works there as a massage therapist and she says it's fantastic. And she mainly does chair massage and she makes bank. People are like, their plane gets delayed for 3 hours and they come up and get massage. And so the airport, and she loves it. Super loves it. Just food for thought. Yeah. It says full-time is usually 38 plus hours a week. That is a bunch of baloney. That's what your book says. Massage therapists consider 32 hours a week, and massage therapy places consider 32 hours a week full-time for massage therapists. You can't, I mean you can actually, some of you are healthy enough to do it, but you don't want to do 40 hours a week of massage. 32 hours a week of massage is full, right? It's about 5-6 hour days. And that's plenty. If you're doing 6 clients a day, 5 days a week, you're doing really good, and that's full time. And most places will give you benefits at that level if they've got them to give. Yeah. If you are employed by somebody, they do get to set your hours. They get to tell you what you wear, all that kind of stuff. And that's because they're branding an image. So they may not want you to have 3 earrings here. They may not want, they're getting pretty casual about stuff like that nowadays. But the point is they get to tell you what to do. In fact, if somebody is not paying your taxes and they have you on contract and they're telling you all that stuff to do, like you got to be here at this time, you got to wear this uniform, they're breaking the law because they can't. When you're on contract, you get to set a lot of that stuff. If you're actually working for somebody and they're telling you what to do and all that kind of stuff, they are an employer and they have to pay part of your taxes. Many places will also try to pay you as an independent contractor, and that they don't get to tell you everything. You're really kind of subletting their space, and they don't pay your taxes. They give you a split of whatever they're doing, and you're an independent contractor. I don't really have a strong opinion about both, although I will say this. You should be paid more per massage if you're an independent contractor. Because when you work for an employer, they're paying part of your taxes, which is money in your pocket actually. They're oftentimes providing insurance, things like that, which is money in your pocket. When you're an independent contractor, you pay all the taxes, you do all the insurance, you take all the risk, so they should be paying you more. When I got my job here the first year to set up this massage program, they hired me on contract. And they actually paid me more per hour. They pay me less now, but I get all these benefits. It's actually better for me now. But the point was, I came in, they were literally just paying me an hourly wage with no benefits or anything, and not even paying my taxes. They're just kind of giving me a check. So if somebody all of a sudden wants you to be an independent contractor, then they should pay you more because you have to assume all of your expenses. Resumes. Resumes are highly overrated, especially in the massage industry. And everybody and their brother wants to tell you, let's get your resume ready. And employers will ask for them, but honest to God, in the massage industry, they're not looking for past massage experience. We don't care, to be honest with you. Sometimes they like it if you're green. We love seeing past customer service experience. I love that. You know, somebody like Miss Trotter, I'd be like, oh, you work the front desk? Oh, that's kind of cool because that lets me know you know how to interact with clients. Care about that. They are asking for your resume because they want accurate contact information pretty much. They might want to look at how long you worked at the last places you're at, but they don't care about where you worked. Whereas if you're a computer programmer, they care what language you're programming in, what's the last project you worked on, did you take a project to market, that kind of stuff. Not true for massage. So we do have an excellent person, Katie Mendoza. She's in this slide. She works for Gateway. That's all she does. And she will one-on-one set up a time with you to work on your resume. And if you want help, she's great. And it's one-on-one and it's beautiful. I recommend you use her. But don't get overly worried about your resume. They just don't usually make or break you in our field. And everybody's going to try to make it sound like it's about your resume. It's not. You know what it's really about? It's about walking in the door of the establishment you're interested in, going to somebody at the front desk and going, I know you're not even posting a position, but I would love to really work here. I've heard about you guys. This is the kind of place I want to be associated with. Here's my resume. I'd really love it if I could get just a practical. And even when they tell me they're not hiring, I go, can I just give you a practical for future reference? Because once you massage them, they're like, oh, wow, this person's pretty good. We might have a spot for them. Walk in the door and you'll get the job. You really will. I don't mean to oversimplify it, but it won't be because you have the right font or 80-pound paper that smelled of lilacs, right? In fact, I even get a little suspicious when I see resumes that are bound in leather and gold leaf on them and everything. Yes, Mr. Blythe.
And not that I'm concerned about it, but are salons and spas and chains, are they like drug testing people before they're giving them jobs?
To the best of my knowledge, no. Yeah. So that doesn't answer for all of them, but to the best of my knowledge, no. It was something I really fought against hard when I used to work at the Princess, because what we found was that drug testing is really good for detecting drugs that stay in your body for a long period of time, like pot. So marijuana stays in your system a long time, but it's legal now. So I don't want to find that, and I didn't want to find it before even, because I don't care. I just don't care. And drug tests don't find the drugs we do care about. So like methamphetamines, I mean no disrespect to anybody here. I've done all sorts of really questionable things in my life, including methamphetamines. But meth addicts are a nightmare. But the problem is they lay off meth for one day and it doesn't show up in the drug test. So what happens when you do drug tests is you catch all your hippy-dippy pot smokers and fire them, and you keep all your alcoholics and meth heads. And that's not helpful. So anyway, a lot of other places feel that way too, and they stop doing drug testing because it's just not worth it to them. Honestly, some of the worst culprits when it comes from an employer point of view are alcoholics. They call in sick all the time and they're moody. And drug tests don't catch that. So a lot of places don't even check anymore because it's not worth it to them. Yeah. And I don't know of any places anymore that drug test after you've been hired. Like they don't do spot drug testing anymore. It's too expensive and it doesn't tell them what they want to know. Not for massage. Now, if you're in nursing or something like that, that can change quite a bit.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, you're just
Because
checking.
I had a job offer with Sigma Insurance before when I first moved there, and they test you for nicotine.
Oh.
And yeah, they have like a policy, like, or this movement that they're trying to make specifically for like health insurance companies. I think it was Sigma and Humana. And they test you for nicotine, and I was kind of worried because I vape. I was like, it's going to be in my system. So like, and even on their facilities, they don't allow you to smoke while you're an employee. So if they catch you smoking, they'll like put you in Smokers Anonymous and all that stuff, and then you have to do counseling and all. That was the first time I had ever heard of that, because even when I read my offer letter, it was saying this is a contingent offer letter based upon your drug test, which will include nicotine testing as well. And I was like, that's kind of weird, but I get it.
Well, it is weird that they made it contingent on that. Gateway does the same thing here. So I get nicotine tested every year, but it's voluntary. So what they do, Gateway does, is they say, if I'm willing to take a nicotine test and I pass it, they give me extra money towards my health insurance because they figure they're saving money because I'm not a smoker. But you could just say, I don't feel like taking the test. You don't have to explain why or whatever. You don't get that money, but that's it. But anyway, directly, the same thing with you, sir. It was directly tied to insurance rates and trying to get insurance down. That's a little bit different. And nicotine, you're right. Nicotine's a bear because it's not nicotine, it's the cotyne, which is what nicotine breaks down into. So when you vape or smoke or whatever, nicotine gets out of your system very quickly, but it changes to cotyne, and cotyne stays in there, like, that's what they test for like a month. It's a little tricky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they test your pee because it stays in your pee longer or something like that.
Yeah. Here we swab, and they claim they're able to, catch it a month out. So anyway, yeah, I don't think drug testing is going to be a big problem for any of you. I just don't think it's going to happen. With the exception that if you work at a company that already requires from its other employees, like a hospital or something, that could happen then. Yeah. Your book talks about curriculum vitae. This is not important for you guys to know. It's going to be on your test, I'm sure. It is a very long resume. And we don't use it in the massage industry at all. We use it, like my son uses this actually. He's in he's in the electrical engineering field, and they want lists of everything you've ever worked on. It's a very in-depth resume, but they're looking for very specific things. For massage, just a straight resume. 1 page, by the way, everybody, front and back, max. And resumes sometimes look even more impressive when there's less. Like, I'm really good. I'm a person. Let me do a practical, please. You will have different types of interviewing. Let me warn you a little bit about the type of interviewing that you will have. It is highly unpredictable. Most of the time, you are by the way, almost always you do a practical and an oral interview. And it really does come down to the practical, to be very honest with you. And you want to listen to that person and try to give them what they're asking you for, whatever that is. Don't think that you're trying to give them a typical client massage. You're actually trying to make Joe Schmo on the table, whoever they are, happy if that's what they've asked you to do. And it usually is. The reason they're highly unpredictable is I just had all sorts of stuff happen. Not bad stuff, but stuff happen where, like, sometimes you're really good and you intimidate the lead therapist, and so they don't like you as much, right? But most of the time, interviews that I thought were just kind of mediocre, they're like, we love you. And what I found was that they just want a massage. So when they go in there and they're like, my legs are really sore, and I'm like, you want me to spend extra time on that? They're like, yeah, in fact, you could spend the entire massage on that. You sure? Yeah. So I do the entire massage on their legs, get the job, because that's what they asked for, and they're happy. But you would think a really good interviewer would ask me to do a full body. But they're not. They're there, and they have to lay down for a lot of these massages too. So just try to make whoever you've got on the table happy. The second thing I'll tell you is a practical is a long time to shoot your mouth off during. Don't. So the thing that I would always try to do when I was interviewing people was I try to be, this is very sneaky, but first, by the way, I'd look up your Facebook account. First thing I do. And we knew you were going to represent the princess. And so when you were doing beer bongs and a backflip off the roof and you were half naked, that doesn't look too good in your thing. And by the way, when your email address is hotbuns69, that's not very good either. And I've seen a lot of those. I don't mean in this class. I just meant I've seen a lot of those email addresses. Get a new one. Your email address should be like I like massage or something, or your name. Anyway, so obvious stuff like that. Kind of scrub your accounts a little bit. But the other thing is I try to become their best friend because I want them to ramble during the massage because I want to figure out who I've got here, right? So keep it friendly, super friendly, but don't talk a lot. Keep it professional. Because they're probably judging you on that because they know that's how you're going to talk to other clients. So yeah, put your Facebook on private too. That works too. I still do that to this day. We were just interviewing some people for a very high level position here at Gateway, and I'm in there online looking them up and stuff like that. It's amazing what you can find about people. Anyway, so just remember, you want that person to love you, whoever you're interviewing, but don't talk too much to them. I had a gal once during a massage on me, and I was like, this massage is really good. And she goes, I think it got a lot better after I got abducted by aliens. Now, you know Tapscott. I believe she might have gotten abducted by aliens. I don't know. Who am I to judge? But it worried me that she made that value judgment that thought that was okay to share. And I thought, I don't know that our princess clients are going to think it's cool that she was abducted by aliens, right? It was just the wrong thing to share. And I didn't give her the job because of that statement, even though her massage was great. And she was very nice. But I'm like, bad judgment. There are people who get upset about stuff like that. So I know that's obvious, but no religion, no politics, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And you might get interviews with multiple people. There is a resort up in Sedona that I think overdoes this. And a friend of mine just went up there. He was pissed too because he didn't get the job. But he did 3 practicals. And I was just like, that's wrong. Anyway, but some places will have you it's very normal, by the way, to have you massage the lead therapist and then speak to the owner. That kind of stuff is very normal. But you should only be doing one practical. That's sequential applications, though, is when you've got multiple people talking to you and stuff. We all know this from this class, but just to remind you, body language, body language, body language, right? Like, you know, just that kind of warm, friendly thing. It's like what Miss Mejia and I were talking about her lovely husband. Like, he just does this thing that's disarming. And so just go in there with this kind of happy, like, I'm just going to love you up today. I know you don't know me, but you're going to love me. I'm going to love you. Works really well. Make sure that body language is there for them. They really want upbeat. By the way, managers, and let me know if I'm wrong about this, Ms. Trotter, but managers spend most of their time dealing with covering therapist shifts who don't show up to work on time and attitudinal problems. And all they want to know is that you're going to show up and be happy and do your job. So when you walk in, you're like, I'm basically a very happy guy and I love doing massage and I'm always here. They're like, that's who we want. It's very simple to them. You're always there in every job, by the way, to remove a problem for your boss. And that's literally how I approach my job here. My job is to remove problems for my boss, not for her to fix my problems. I want to give you guys a break, but can we wait 15 more minutes? I know you're dying, but okay. Thank you. Business types, we don't have to get too much into this, but most of you will be a sole proprietorship. If you go out right now and you just start working on people with a license, you're a sole proprietorship, kind of automatically. That's fine. And my only advice to you about being a sole proprietorship, and I kind of recommend this for all of you, unless you work directly for like Massage Envy and you actually get a paycheck, open up a separate bank account and have all of your massage income and expenses go into that bank account, and then pay yourself a paycheck out of that. The paycheck can change, but don't mix your regular checking account with your massage checking account. It actually makes your life so much easier. If you ever get audited, the IRS loves to see this, that you've dumped all the money you make into this massage account and you write yourself a paycheck out of that and put that in your personal account and do all your personal junk out of there. And what's cool is if you don't keep good records, literally at the end of the year, you can be like, well, that's all the money that went in and that's all the money that came out. That's what I made. It's a very easy way to do accounting. It looks super clean. When you get audited, if you ever get audited, clean records tend to make them not look very hard because they're like, oh, this guy's dumping all his money. This guy made $50,000 last year and he dumped it all in this one account. It's all pretty obvious. Yes, Mr. Blanchard.
A question about that. I know from what I've spoken to some people, they have a hard time proving employment. I mean, not employment, but like income if they work for themselves because they want to see like a direct deposit for X amount of months or whatever like that. If you're trying to get a house or something. Is that something that we could do, is set up like an LLC, a sole proprietorship, and then pay ourselves on a regular basis, and we can prove like this is me paying, this is from my business, and would that work far as showing proof of income? It
does work. I know for a fact. And the therapists I know that have run into problems, and I know quite a few have, I had some colleagues over the years who did not report a lot of their income because you make a lot of cash income as a massage therapist, a lot of cash tips and stuff like that. Especially if you're kind of running your own business, right? A lot of people pay you in cash. They know you like cash. And you are legally obligated to pay taxes on that. But let's be honest. If you give me $50 and I go buy gas with it, nobody's the wiser. The problem is when I go to buy a house, and these colleagues of mine multiple people have told me this. They went to the bank essentially and said, I want to buy a house. I make $60,000 a year. And the bank said, well, your bank account only shows you make $25,000 a year. And your taxes only show you make $25,000 a year. And they're like, well, yeah, I really make $60,000 though. And the bank's like, well, you're either lying about that or you've been lying to the IRS. And either way, we're not going to give you a loan. So you're absolutely right. Putting it in a separate bank account really helps, sir, and claiming it. Just claiming it. Most places, they just want to see your tax return for a loan. So if your tax return shows that you've been making $50,000, $60,000 a year from your massage job for a couple of years, that's good enough for them. Yeah. So that's a real hard decision because a lot of people are like, I'd like to not pay tax on this money. By the way, For many of you, it's not worth it. Just to let you know, you don't save that much money hiding 10 grand. You just don't. It's not even worth the trouble. And it's a major law to break. You want to make your life difficult, mess with the IRS. But anyway, so sir, yes, that would work. Yes, get a separate bank account, put that in there, pay yourself out of it. Yes, it really does work. It's a nice, clean paper trail. Looks good, all that stuff. Yeah, that's about all. Partnerships, you guys might get into a partnership. Be super careful. Partnerships, and I don't even think you should probably go into partnership with a friend. It's almost worse with a friend. Because it's hard because you like them and you don't want to upset them, but you guys have to make really tough decisions, and it's rough. If you do go into partnership with a friend, make sure you have a buyout clause for how do one of us buy out the other one if the other one gets sick of running this business and wants to buy us out. How do we set the value of that business? All that kind of stuff. You want a way that somebody can get out of that and the other person can take it over without having the whole business shut down. Some of you will incorporate. It's not expensive to incorporate, maybe $500, and you can make yourself a corporation, and it allows you to write off certain things. You got to talk to an accountant about this. At some income levels, it doesn't help, but sometimes it does, and it just depends on what you're doing. There's so many things to talk about that, but you can create a corporation, and then you can put your car and your insurance, all that kind of stuff under it and get some tax benefits, but you also have a lot more paperwork to do. And Mr. Blygen mentioned this, an LLC, which is a limited liability corporation. Many people do that because they think it protects their liability. I will tell you, it doesn't protect your liability very much if you're the one doing the massage. You know, whether they sue the LLC or they sue you, it's really you. So if you've got lots of assets, it can be an advantage, you know. Okay, zoning. So many of you will do massage out of your house, maybe only one day a week or whatever, and you're probably not zoned for it. And unofficially, I'm telling you, it probably doesn't matter. Zoning claims usually create problems when there's a line of traffic outside your house and you have a sign up that says 24-hour massage. That's a problem, and you'll get the zoning board will call you the next day because some neighbor will turn you in. But when you've got 3 people a day that come by at different times to get a massage, I wouldn't worry about it that your house isn't zoned for it. Worst case scenario, you're breaking a zoning law and they'll slap you on the hand and tell you you've got to get the right permit or you just can't do it in your house anymore. But that's about it. It really is. If you open up your own shop, you have to get business license, zoning, all sorts of stuff. Taxes. So, super important. If you are a sole proprietor, let's say you're going house to house and you are massaging people, you need to pay quarterly taxes. You will actually you won't get in big trouble, but you'll get a penalty. You'll get a 10% penalty tax on top of the tax you owe for not having paid quarterly. Right now, we don't think about it, but when you get a paycheck from your employer, they're paying the government part of your taxes every month. And when you fill out taxes at the end of the year, you get that money back. You've been paying quarterly taxes, whether you know it or not. Well, if you're a sole proprietor and you go around and you're making money and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, I've got money saved, I listen to Tapscott, I put money in the bank, I've got money ready to pay my tax at the end of the year, you're going to pay your tax at the end of the year, and the government's going to say, thank you, but you should have paid these taxes quarterly along the way. And they'll slap you with another 10% tax on top of that, and it can be a small amount of money. So you have to pay quarterly taxes. They're very simple to pay. You can go online and estimate them and all that kind of stuff. I'll tell you another trick that I did for years that worked really well for me. I oftentimes worked a couple of days a week at another place. So I usually did kind of my side gig most of the time, and I might work at a Massage Envy 2 days a week. Well, I would have the Massage Envy take out the maximum taxes from my paycheck. And because they were taking out too much taxes, that was my quarterly payment. And so I get to the end of the year and I didn't have a penalty because they were making my quarterly payments for me. So that's a thought. You can deduct continuing education, by the way, once you've got your massage license. Deductions aren't as big a deal as they used to be because the standard deduction is so big nowadays that a lot of people don't itemize anymore. But it just depends on your particular situation. Keep your tax records. Most tax stuff's done online. The tax records you really need to keep is if you're making all these deductions. If you're like, I drove my vehicle for work and I'm deducting that, then you need to keep gas receipts and all that kind of stuff for about 3 years. I find most of that stuff is not worth the effort, but that's up to you. When you're setting rates for clients, don't leave any money on the table. And here's what I mean by that. There is a reason that when I go into Circle K or Quick Trip and I get a 32-ounce Thirst Buster for $1, there's a sign up there that says for $1.05 you can get a 5-gallon Thirst Buster. And I'm like, I've got a 32-ounce Thirst Buster? I can get a 5-gallon one for a nickel more? Why are they doing that? Because the biggest expense they have is getting me in that store. The marketing and everything. The stuff inside the Thirst Buster costs them almost nothing. They'd love to get another nickel out of me. Now, obviously, I was exaggerating those numbers, but I want you guys to kind of think the same way. I might charge $100 an hour for massage, but I don't charge $150 an hour for a 90-minute massage. I'm going to deduct that a little bit because I want you to go to 90. I don't charge $200 for a 2-hour. I want you to go to 2 hours, right? It feels like you're making less per hour, and you are, but in a way you're not. If I drove to your house, I want to stay there as long as possible. You know? I've made deals with people, $100 for the first hour. You want to do another hour, $75 for the next hour. You want to do a third hour, $50 for that hour. Because I want to stay. Because it took me an hour to get to your house to begin with. So just think about that. You want people in longer treatments, and it's really hard for massage therapists because they're like, oh, I'm only making half price for the second hour. Not really. You're already there. They're already on the table. You didn't have any travel time. You've already got this client. They're extra happy. It doesn't work that way. You're not really getting paid per hour. You're getting paid per client. And I realize that does take hours out of your life, but you're getting paid per client. So think about that. You can barter with people. Right? There's just so many great trades that go on. So many great trades. And we're not going to get into that. We're almost close to break time here. I want to share one other thing with you guys before we go on break and before I release some homework. Let me stop sharing that. So this is not exactly massage related, but I just want to make a plea to all of you. Something to think about, especially my young, wonderful folks out there. So you might want to consider saving for retirement right now. This is Father Tapscott talking. I totally admit that. But if you get used to taking money and setting it aside for retirement now, you just get used to earning less money and you get very used to it. And my daughter started doing this. My daughter, by the way, is ridiculously responsible, not like me. But her question to me was like, how do you live the way you do when you're a teacher and stuff like that? And the fact is I invest. And I just want to give you a little example. There's such a thing as a Roth IRA. When you put money in there, it's already taxed. You already got it taxed in your paycheck, it's already taxed. This does not save you tax yet. The maximum you're allowed to put in there is $6,000 a year. This might sound like a lot of money to you, but I'm giving you this sales pitch right now because your salaries, all of your salaries are about to jump way more than $6,000 over what you're used to making. So this is the time to take this hit. If you're allowed to put up $6,000 into your Roth every year. Miss Mejia, can I be really rude and ask you how old you are? Just to make an illustration.
22.
22. Okay. So, the S&P 500, the Standard & Poor's Stock Exchange 500, if you put money into a 500 S&P mutual fund, the average return over the last 30 years has been 10%. If you put $6,000 a year if Miss Mejia puts $6,000 into a S&P 500 mutual fund, when she retires, she will have the amount of money I'm about to put up on the board, and she will have it tax-free. Because the Roth, she's already paid the Roth. It will grow tax-free, and she will pull it out tax-free. That's not giving somebody $10 and you get $8. She will get all of this. She will be worth roughly $6 million. Now I know it's hard to stomach, like, how am I going to put away $6,000 a year? And it doesn't even have to be $6,000. But if you get used to missing that money, if you have it taken out of your paycheck, like I do this right now. I do it right now. I have $280 taken out of every paycheck, and at the end of every year, I can put away $7,000 because I'm older. But the point is, I put away that money. It comes out. Did I miss the $280 when I first started working at Gateway? Sure. Do I miss it now? No, I don't even see it. That's my lifestyle. But to use Miss Mejia, by the way, if you're younger than Miss Mejia, it'll be worth more than that. But that's her retirement without Social Security, without anything else. And that's enough money that you will live off the interest while you're going on cruises and trips to Europe and having your own massage therapist. So it has nothing to do with the class, but Father Tapscott is telling you, invest, 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 and then don't think about it too. By the way, I'm not playing the stock market. I invest in stable mutual funds and I forget about it. Yes, Miss Estes.
Okay, so how do you set that up? You just go to a bank and do that?
I can even tell you how to set it up. Yeah. So what I would do is consider going to Vanguard Investments. I am pushing a particular company, but not for Vanguard Investments. Was set up for people like us. Most people say it's the #1 greatest thing that ever happened. And you can get a mutual fund, and your money will slowly go in there. Boom. Yeah.
And so then your money goes in there, and groups then invest with it?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So they're playing the stock market with your money, essentially.
Yes, and the simple example I gave was the S&P 500. They're investing in the top 500 companies in the United States. And there's a very famous guy named Warren Buffett, who many of you have probably heard about, who bet somebody. Some guy said, well, I can play the stock market and make all this money. And Warren Buffett said, I bet I'll make more money just dropping my money into an S&P 500 mutual fund and letting other people do it. And he beat him by far. And it's a very safe long-term approach. By the way, you'll watch your account. It goes up and down. It's crazy. But it goes up overall. And you will become a millionaire. I mean, a real millionaire. And I'll send you the exact stuff, Miss Estes, if you're curious. Yeah, and Miss McDowell, cool. All right, I'll send that out. And Miss Trotter, yes, absolutely. All right, everybody, take a break for 15 minutes. When you come back, I might be in another meeting briefly, but I'm going to release the homework now so you've got something to work on too. Cool? And I'll pop back in, so bear with me.
Excuse me, Tapscott?
Yes.
Could you send that information to me too?
Absolutely, sir. Thank you.
Could you send it to me as well, Mr. T?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I would like it as well.
Got it, Miss Lure.
Can I hear it? Can you come in?